Hello, my name is Fox and you're watching Den of Fools. Let's jump right in. Week 20 of 2024 we had 154 tournaments, with a total of 3,110 players and 12,350 games played. We have a lot more tournaments this week, with nearly double the games played. This includes some really big events, such as GW's Dallas Open in the US. Having said that, this week the Orcs topped the charts with 25 wins and 57 top 3 placings. Their weighted placing is 11, which is the joint second best this week. The Orcs are really starting to show what they can do with their new codex, as players are working out the best combos. We do have more tournaments this week, but the 25 wins is an impressive increase on the 8 they got last time. The Space Marines are close behind with 24 wins and a big 85 top 3 placings. Their weighted placing is 26, which is a bit worse than the 16.7 they got last time, although still a good result for them. They are certainly performing better after the changes, but not by a huge amount, which is to be expected considering they were mainly rather minor. Last time I stated that the Tau Codex was included in the results, but as a viewer pointed out, it was a little too early for that. This time we do have the first initial results, which include the Tau Codex, and they get 15 wins, 29 top 3s, and are the other joint second best for the weighted placing, with 11. This is very marginally worse than the weighted placing of 9.1 they got last time, although they do have more wins and players this time out. It is too early to gauge the strength of the Codex, but it seems to be a good start for the Tau. The Death Guard have another good week with 10 wins, 34 top 3s and a weighted placing of 16.8. The Sisters get 8 wins with 19 top 3s and a weighted placing of 13.1. This is much better than the weighted placing of 24 they got last week. The Eldari also get 8 wins with 1 less top 3 and a weighted placing of 15.8, which is a very similar result to last time. The Custodies are back in blue after a few rough weeks since their new codex released. They get 7 wins, 16 top 3s and a weighted placing of 17.3, which is a good improvement on the 22.3 they got last week, with over double the wins. The remaining 4 factions in blue all get 6 wins, being ranked by the number of top 3 placings. The Tyrannies get 18 top 3s with a weighted placing of 23.2, which is a slight improvement for them. The Drukhari and World Eaters both get 17 top 3s, with the Drukhari getting the best weighted placing this week with 9.8. Due to their small player size, their weighted placing can shift rather dramatically. Guard are the last faction in blue, with 6 wins, 14 top 3s and a weighted placing of 23.8. Chaos Knights top the green group with 5 wins, 15 top 3s and a weighted placing of 17.8. The other factions in green all get 4 wins, with Chaos Space Marines and Grey Knights both getting 19 top 3s. They have weighted placings of 31.3 and 29.3 respectively. We know the Chaos Space Marines Codex is soon upon us, and I am sure we will see their position change once it releases. I'm a little surprised the Grey Knights have dropped down this much, considering they have been doing very well since the balance update. With a lot of big tournaments this week, maybe their weighted placing is suffering a little, as of course only one player can win a big tournament, such as the aforementioned 234 player Dallas Open. The Thousand Sons also get 4 wins, with 16 top 3s and a weighted placing of 27, which is a significant increase on the 8.9 they got last week. Again, perhaps this is high due to the number of large tournaments. Chaos Demons are the last faction in green, with 13 wins and a weighted placing of 25.8. Surprisingly, the Necrons top the other group with 3 wins, but 36 top 3s, and a massive weighted placing of 79.3. Considering how many top 3s they got, they have definitely been affected by being taken a lot in the larger tournaments, which can only have one winner. The Admech also get 3 wins, with a weighted placing of 12, which is the 3rd best overall. The Imperial Knights are not faring quite as well as their Chaos counterparts, with 2 wins and a weighted placing of 46. The Gene Stealers get 2 wins and a weighted placing of 20, with the Votann unfortunately missing out on a win. 22 factions managed at least one top 10 placing, with the Space Marines getting the most top 10s with 286. The Orcs remain in second with 138 top 10 placings, with Necrons in third on 117 top 10 placings. Unsurprisingly, the Space Marines are the most played faction with 20.06% of all players taking them. Orcs are still the second most popular on 8.84%. Necrons are firmly in third on 7.65%. It looks like these 3 factions have cemented themselves as the 3 most popular in this order. It takes our resident stats guru and Ultramarine fanboy Fearless Fox many hours to collect all the data. It would be great if you could show your appreciation by liking and sharing the video. It really helps us with the God algorithm of YouTube. We have grouped the win rates by colour, with the key at the bottom of the screen. With the 3rd week of results, we only have a single faction outside the top of the Goldilocks zone. The Thousand Sons are at the top with an impressive win rate of 56.6%. This is a slight improvement on their form in the last few weeks, but they are certainly looking like one of the top factions after the changes. The Orcs are just in the Goldilocks zone with a win rate of 54.8%. They are certainly looking like a top faction after getting the most wins this week, and still maintaining a very high win rate, despite being the second most popular. They are rivaling the Necrons for the strongest codex release so far, although we are getting them thick and fast now. The Death Guard have a very good week with a win rate of 54.6%, which is much better than the 45.4% they got last time. The Drukhari back up their best weighted placing with a win rate of 54.3%, which explains why they've done well in terms of winning tournaments. Sisters also do well with a win rate of 53.4%, with the GC that's on 52.9%. As we saw at the Dallas Open preview, these two factions will be next to get a codex, with the new HQs to go along with it. Despite a very high weighted placing this week, the Necrons get a win rate of 51.8%. This confirms my early suspicion that the larger tournaments have meant they haven't got quite as many wins. The Grey Knights have dropped back a bit, but still get a good win rate with 51.5%. The Imperial Knights are last in green, with a 50% win rate. We have a few more factions in yellow this week, with Chaos Demons topping the group on 49.8%. The World Eaters are close behind on 49.4%, with Admech on a 49% win rate. The Leagues of Votan and Aldari both have a 47.7% win rate, with Chaos Space Marines on 47.3%. The Loyalists are very close behind on 47.2%. We will go over the individual chapters later in the video. The Tyranids get a win rate of 46.6%. The Tau are the last faction in the Goldilocks zone, with a 45% win rate. I would expect this to change in the coming weeks, as players finally get to use their new rules at tournaments. We only have 3 factions below the zone this week, with Chaos Knights, Custodians and Guard all on 44 and a bit % win rates. Now have a good idea who are performing well after collecting a significant amount of data. No factions are above the Goldilocks zone, with the Grey Knights topping the charts with 54.5%. The Thousand Sons are now close behind with a win rate of 54.3% since the last balance change. The Sisters remain on a win rate of 53.3%, with Orcs very close behind on 53.2%. Given recent form, I would imagine the Orcs will continue to move up the rankings. The Necrons have a win rate of 52.1%, with the Drukhari increasing to 51.9% after a good week. The Gene Stealer Cults are on a 51% win rate, with Chaos Demons on 50.2% and Death Guard on a 50% win rate. The majority of factions are in yellow, with only 2 factions below the Goldilocks zone. Custodians are very close to being within the zone on 44.7%, with Guard a little further back on 43.8%. From the first 3 weeks, it looks like GW have done a good job on balancing the game, although there are quite a few factions that are just within the zone at the top and the bottom. The Space Wolves again top the win rate with 52.8%. This is a slight decrease from last week, but it's still very good for the Marines. This is emphasised by the Raven Guard and White Scars being the only of the chapters in green with a 50% win rate and far less players. The most popular chapter, the Blood Angels, top the yellow group on 49.6%, which just misses out on green. The second most popular chapter, the Black Templars, get a win rate of 48.5%, with the Salamanders on 48.2%. The third most popular chapter, the Dark Angels, get a win rate of 47.6%, which is a decent improvement for them. The Unknown chapters just get in the Goldilocks zone on 45.2%, which I would estimate is roughly where the Codex is, considering the Ultramarines tend to have a lot of beginner players. The Death Watch get a win rate of 41.9%, with the Iron Hands on 41%. The aforementioned Ultramarines are the last chapter in yellow, with a win rate of 40.9%. The Imperial Fists are the only chapter in red with more than a few players. They get a win rate of 37.5%. Overall, the Space Marines are doing reasonably well, although their overall win rate is certainly being carried by the Divergent chapters, who make up a bulk of the players. The Space Wolves are clearly at the top of the running total win rate with 54.2%. The Blood Angels are not too far behind on 51.6%, with the Black Templars just getting in green on a 50.1% win rate. The Iron Hands top the yellow group on 48.8%, with the Salamanders on 46.2% and the Death Watch on 45.2%. The Dark Angels are just below the Goldilocks zone with 44.1%, with the Unknown on 42.9%. Phyllis's favourite Blue Boys, the Ultramarines, on a win rate of 42.6%. The Imperial Fists are the only chapter in red with a win rate of 31.3%. Although only some of the Divergent chapters are performing very well, Space Marines are doing a little better than they were pre-data slate on the whole. This will all change when the Chaos Space Marine Codex sees play in the coming weeks. We intend to report the data in the same way, including the Emperor's Children despite their new index. This is mainly because it is very small indeed, at only a few pages, and still requires the main Chaos Space Marine rules to function. With that said, these win rates serve as the last indication of what the declared warbands were doing before the Codex started to see play on the tabletop. If you enjoyed our content, please subscribe, check out one of the videos on screen, and consider using our affiliate links in the description. Thank you for watching.